Welcome back to English Out Loud. I'm Jake.
And I'm Annie. So glad you're here with us today.
Before we get into the episode, Annie, I have to ask, how are you doing? You look like you just woke up from a really good nap.
Ha! Actually, I did. I took a 20-minute nap before recording and I feel amazing. I think everyone should do this.
See, that's the dream. I tried that once and woke up 3 hours later completely confused about what year it was.
Classic Jake. Okay, so wherever you're listening from right now, welcome. Maybe you're on the bus, maybe you're cooking, maybe you're doing the thing where you say you're going to clean, but you're actually just standing there listening to podcasts.
We see you. And honestly, we respect it. At least your English is getting better while you avoid the dishes.
Exactly. Okay, so Jake, how has your week been? Anything interesting happen?
Actually, yes. Something really small happened, but it stuck with me. I was in a meeting and someone asked for my opinion on something. And for a second, I froze. Like completely.
Oh no, that feeling when your brain just goes blank?
Exactly. And the funny thing is, I had an opinion. I knew what I thought. But in that moment, I just couldn't get the words out.
That's actually the perfect intro to today's topic, because that experience, that gap between having a thought and actually saying it, that's exactly what we're talking about today.
And it doesn't only happen in a second language, right? It can happen in your first language too. But when you're learning English, it happens way more often.
So today we want to talk about that moment, and what you can actually do about it.
So the title of today's episode is Stop Thinking, Start Talking. And I know that sounds a little scary. Like, Jake, are you telling me not to think?
Yes, Jake, stop thinking.
No, of course not. What we mean is, there's a point where thinking too much actually stops you from speaking. You go from preparing to hesitating to just staying quiet.
And a lot of English learners know this feeling really well. You understand everything, you follow the conversation. But when it's your turn to speak, something in your head says, wait, is this correct? What if I say it wrong? What will they think?
And by the time you figure it out, the moment is gone.
So today we're going to talk about why this happens, how to start breaking that pattern, and 5 really useful phrases that will help you sound more natural when you do speak.
And before we go any further, if you're enjoying English Out Loud, please hit subscribe and leave us a comment below. It means the world to us, and it helps other learners find us.
Now let's get into it.
Okay, Annie, let's start with the basics. Why is it so hard for people to just speak their mind when they're learning English?
Ooh, and by the way, that's our first phrase today, speak your mind. Let's save the definition for when it comes up more naturally. But Jake, you just used it perfectly.
Oh, nice. I didn't even plan that.
So why is it hard? I think the number one reason is fear. Specifically, fear of making a mistake in front of other people.
Right? And this fear is very human. It's not about English. It's about how we're wired. Humans don't like looking stupid in front of other people.
And when you're learning a language, every sentence feels like a small test. Like, is this right? Am I pronouncing this correctly? Will they understand me?
And the more you care about getting it right, the harder it becomes to just say anything.
There's actually a name for this. It's called communication apprehension. It's the anxiety or fear you feel before or during communication.
That's a fancy term. Basically, it means you want to speak, but something inside you hits the brakes.
Exactly. And for a lot of people, this becomes a habit. You freeze up so many times that eventually your brain starts expecting to freeze up.
Let's talk about that phrase, freeze up. Annie, what does it mean when someone freezes up?
So when you freeze up, it means you suddenly can't move or speak, usually because you're nervous or scared, like you become ice. Everything just stops.
I love that. You become ice. So, for example, she asked me a question in the meeting, and I just froze up. I couldn't think of anything to say.
Right, or I freeze up every time someone asks me to introduce myself in English, even though I've done it 100 times.
Ha! That one is so real. Why is introducing yourself so scary?
Because everyone is looking at you. There's pressure. And that pressure makes your brain go into a kind of emergency mode. And in emergency mode, your creative thinking shuts down.
So it's not that you don't know English. It's that your brain is using all its energy on feeling nervous. And there's nothing left for the words.
Exactly. And the worst part is, when you stay quiet because you're scared, you actually reinforce the fear. Your brain learns, okay, staying quiet is safe, speaking is dangerous.
So silence becomes a habit.
Right, and that's why just telling people to be confident doesn't work. You can't think your way out of this. You have to practice your way out.
Okay, so let's also talk about another big reason people struggle to speak up. And this one is about perfectionism.
Oh yes, this one is huge.
Some people won't say anything unless they're completely sure it's correct. Like they're editing the sentence in their head, checking the grammar, choosing the best word, and by the time they're ready, the conversation has moved on.
I used to do this so much. I would have something to say. I knew exactly what I thought, but I couldn't get the words out fast enough because I was trying to make it perfect first.
And there it is, our third phrase. Get the words out. What does that mean, Annie?
So get the words out means to actually say something, to manage to express what's in your head, even if it's difficult or uncomfortable. It's about the act of speaking itself.
Like, I know what I want to say, I just can't get the words out. There's a gap between my thoughts and my mouth.
Exactly. And for language learners, that gap is often filled with doubt. Am I saying this right? Is this the best way to say it?
And the answer is, it doesn't have to be the best way. It just has to be a way.
That's so true. Imperfect communication is still communication. A sentence with one grammar mistake still carries meaning. People will understand you.
Unless you say the wrong word completely and ask someone to pass the salt when you actually wanted the dessert menu.
Ha! Even then, they'll probably figure it out from your face. Okay, so we've talked about why it's hard. Now, let's talk about what you can actually do. Jake, what's your number one tip for people who freeze up when it's their turn to speak?
Okay, my number one tip is this. Lower your expectations for that first sentence. You don't need to say something smart or impressive. You just need to say something.
Yes, even a small reaction word works, like really, or that makes sense, or I agree with that.
Because once you say one thing, the next thing comes more easily. It's like the first sentence breaks the ice. And then your brain relaxes a little.
It's like being nervous before jumping into a cold swimming pool. The hardest part is the moment before you jump. Once you're in, it's fine.
Which actually brings us to our fourth phrase, take the plunge. Annie, do you want to explain that one?
Sure, so take the plunge means to decide to do something even though it feels scary or risky. You commit to it, you stop hesitating and you go for it.
Like, I've been wanting to join an English conversation group for months. I finally took the plunge and signed up last week.
Or I was nervous to call the restaurant in English, but I just took the plunge and did it, and it was fine.
And the key thing about take the plunge is that word finally. It usually comes after a period of waiting or avoiding.
Right? Nobody takes the plunge into something easy. You take the plunge into something that scares you a little.
Okay, second tip. This one is about building up slowly, not jumping into the deep end immediately.
I love this one. So instead of trying to speak in a big, stressful situation first, you build your speaking confidence in low-pressure situations.
Like talking to yourself. I know it sounds weird, but narrating your day in English is one of the best practices you can do. Nobody's judging you. You can say whatever you want.
I do this while I cook. I'll say things like, okay, now I'm adding the garlic. This smells amazing. I wonder if I put too much in. I probably put too much in.
Ah, cooking commentary. I love it. And the reason this works is because it gets your brain used to thinking in English, not just understanding English.
And then when you need to speak in a real situation, it feels less foreign. Your mouth has already practiced.
Third tip. Learn to catch yourself when you're about to go quiet.
Ooh, and that's our fifth phrase, catch yourself. What does that mean, Jake?
So catch yourself means to suddenly notice that you are doing something, usually a habit, or something you don't want to do. You catch yourself in the act.
For example, I catch myself going silent every time someone asks me a question I wasn't expecting. I just go blank.
Right. Or, I was about to say nothing again, but I caught myself and just said one sentence anyway.
And the reason this phrase matters is because you can't change a habit you don't notice. Catching yourself is step one.
Once you notice the pattern, you have a choice. You can go quiet like you always do, or you can try something different.
And sometimes trying something different just means saying one small thing. Even if it's, sorry, can you repeat that? Or that's a really good question, let me think.
Those by-time phrases are so useful because they keep you in the conversation while your brain catches up.
Exactly, you're not being silent, you're buying time. And that's a skill that even native speakers use.
Okay, one more tip before we get to the personal stories. And this one is about your mindset. Annie, you had a really interesting thing you said about this last week. Do you remember?
Oh, about speaking your mind?
Yes. Tell me more about that.
Right, so speak your mind is our second phrase. It means to say what you actually think or feel, directly and honestly. Not what you think people want to hear, but your real opinion.
And a lot of learners hold back from doing this because they don't feel like their English is good enough to express a real opinion.
But here's the thing, your English doesn't need to be perfect to speak your mind. You just need to say, I think, I feel, in my opinion, from my experience.
Simple frames. And suddenly, you're sharing a real thought, not just answering a question.
And when you speak your mind, people respect it. Even if your English isn't perfect, people can tell that you're engaged, that you care about the conversation.
That confidence, that engagement, that's what people respond to, not perfect grammar.
Okay, I want to share a really honest moment. This is a bit embarrassing, but it's so real.
Oh, I love those. Go for it.
So I was at a work dinner. International team, mix of people, and everyone was chatting and laughing. And I had something I wanted to say, a story, a funny one.
Okay, and?
And I held on to it. I kept waiting for the right moment. And then someone else told a story, and everyone laughed, and the moment passed, and I never said my thing.
Oh no. And the worst part is, you probably remembered that story for days.
Weeks, Jake. Weeks. And I remember thinking, why didn't I just take the plunge? It was a perfectly good story. But I was so worried it wouldn't land.
And what did you learn from that?
That the risk of staying silent is actually bigger than the risk of speaking up. When you stay silent, you miss the connection. You miss the moment. When you speak, at worst, the joke doesn't land and you move on.
That's so true. I have one too. So I was in an online class, and the teacher asked for opinions on a topic, and I had a really clear opinion. I was ready to speak your mind.
But
But someone else said almost exactly the same thing. And for a second I thought, okay, someone already said it. I don't need to say anything now,
oh, I do this.
right? But then I thought, wait, this is actually a great chance. So I said, I completely agree with what she said, and I want to add one thing. And I said my point.
That's perfect. Because you didn't give up your turn just because someone agreed with you. You caught yourself and you spoke anyway.
And the teacher actually responded really positively. Not because my English was perfect, but because I engaged.
That's the whole thing, isn't it? Engagement is the goal, not perfection.
Okay, let's slow down and go back over our 5 key phrases from today.
Love this part. Okay, phrase 1, speak your mind.
Speak your mind means to say what you actually think or feel. Directly. Honestly. Not filtered, not softened, just real.
For example, I appreciate you always speaking your mind. I know I can trust what you say. Or it took me years to learn how to speak my mind at work without feeling scared.
Great. Phrase 2. Freeze up.
Freeze up means to suddenly become unable to speak or act, usually because of nerves or fear. You become like ice.
For example, I always freeze up when I have to speak in front of a group. Or, she froze up when the interviewer asked an unexpected question.
Phrase 3, get the words out.
Get the words out means to actually say what's in your head. To manage to express yourself, even when it's difficult.
For example, I knew what I wanted to say, I just couldn't get the words out. Or he was so emotional that he could barely get the words out.
Phrase 4. Take the plunge.
Take the plunge means to finally do something scary or risky after a period of hesitation. You commit, you go for it.
For example, after thinking about it for months, she took the plunge and moved to a new city. Or, I was nervous, but I took the plunge and spoke first.
And phrase 5, catch yourself.
Catch yourself means to suddenly notice you're doing something, usually a habit you want to change. You catch yourself in the act.
For example, I keep catching myself staying silent when I have something to say. Or you need to catch yourself before you say something you'll regret.
5 great phrases. Speak your mind. Freeze up. Get the words out. Take the plunge. Catch yourself.
Say them again a few times, practice them, and then look for a chance to use them this week.
All right? That's a wrap for EP06 of English. Out Loud, thank you so much for spending this time with us.
If this episode helped you, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs a little push to start speaking.
And this week, we have a tiny challenge for you. Find one moment where you would normally stay quiet and take the plunge instead. Just one moment.
Even one sentence counts. You've got this.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Annie. Take care, keep talking, and we'll see you in the next episode.